Yeah, absolutely. No. And like I say, yeah. So, Matt, who stood out for you from that first night that you went into the second night and you kind of thought, yeah, that guy, I'm gonna earmark that guy, or I'm penciling in something about that guy. Who was you sort of rooting for by the second night?
Oh, well, that's a difficult question, isn't it? Because they were all really good. I felt like, and given the amount of time they had on that first night, not any of those people there had that much time to tell their story and get across their characters. But they did it very well, regardless.
Yeah.
I think we totally from the first night we kind of knew the people that were really standing out from the pack, and we saw that Dunn, he was establishing himself as the dominant bad guy of the bunch. So definitely, he was one to watch. And of course, we knew about Tyler Bate, well, we did in the end.
Yeah.
But I wasn't it's just that was, if WWE want to go with underdog stories, then that was one right there. That was the way that they did that. They did that one spot on, I think, for once. But yeah, I would say Dunn was pretty good. I liked the whole kind of thing he had with the tension between him and William Regal. Really felt real.
Yeah,
really
I like
paid
that.
off in the end.
Yeah, I don't know if it was just me, Matt, but this is just as a side note here, and I definitely noticed this. I felt like Triple H went into this and experimented on a few ideas about how to present this thing, and maybe he takes it back to WWE. But did you notice on the first night, right at the end, when William Regal and Nigel McGuinness were standing there, they obviously squared them up against one another. And that is something that is often, we see that in UFC. They do that all the time. They promote a fight and both guys square off, and it's part of the build-up. It's part of the tension. And I felt that really worked well. And I wonder if that is a little experiment just for Triple H, and he thinks that might be that's going to be something we see more often in the future. Because we rarely see that, Matt, where they'll do things like that. But for me, that really added to it a little bit more, and it made it a little bit more realistic, a little bit more serious, which is I mean, the thing is, Matt, when you look at last night, it's so difficult to get back in. You think to yourself, well, above all that is this crazy circus of the WWE, and you just couldn't imagine, the New Day guys doing that, or with somebody else, could you? Like a serious square off. You just couldn't see it. But in this level, the way they were presenting this, I felt that was a really good idea, and like I say, something I think where some of the main event matches, at least on WWE's big card, could be done more often, just to give you that little bit more suspense. Okay, so for me, there were definitely two standout guys for me by the first night, Matt. I'd been reading up a lot about Tyler Bate. I'm going to give that away because I started to watch a lot of his videos because somebody I knew said, you've got to watch this kid. He's probably likely going to win it. And I was kind of like, I don't know that WWE would do that. But then when I was watching him in these videos I was shown, and then obviously he got a massive article on him all over the Star. I just thought, perhaps this is the guy after all. But when we got to see him, Matt, certainly he was one I was looking at. And the other guy obviously was Pete Dunne. I mean, he like in the first match, I was kind of thinking, he looked kind of like just a normal heel, but he's got this really good facials going on. And that really works for him. Like I think he's a really good heel. But another guy that really did catch my eye, and I didn't like at first, and then I thought, oh, hang on, I think I do like him. Was Jordan? Of course, what they were calling him last night. You're just a beep, Finn Balor. Jordan Devlin. I really liked him. I mean, I bought into that, and I kind of saw him as a really good kind of heel as well, and I think both those guys did a really good job of getting themselves over as the the bad guys. I think Jordan just come up a little bit short to Pete Dunne, but he wasn't far off it. Like, he definitely got a lot of heat, Matt, just because of, you know, they've done it so well about him not liking to be in the shadow of Finn Balor and stuff like that. I think that was excellently done. And of course the crowd hear about, oh, he's been trained by him, then he's kind of coming out in the jacket, so he's looking like him. Like, he done whoever come up with that and said go out like that definitely had a good idea, because that was obviously going to get him booed instantly. But, you know, in that first match, Matt, I was kind of thinking to myself, I wasn't too sure if he was supposed to be the face, but then in the end, you know, I realised where they were going with it. And I felt, you know, I've got to say this, Matt, you know, all the matches we had on the second night, I enjoyed every one of them. There wasn't one that I kind of felt like was just meaningless. And I felt like, win or lose, everybody, especially in that second night, got a name for themselves. Like, people will now, you know, be looking up these guys, want to know more. The likes of Mark Andrews, you know, Sam Gradwell, who I thought was excellent as well. Trent Seven, really done. You know, they all had great spots in the matches to sort of showcase their moves. Was there anything standing out before we get to like the main thing for you, Matt, in those first quarter-final matches that you took away?
We mean the last 8 guys.
Yeah, and that.
I was going to say, I was glad you mentioned him, because Andrews, I thought he was really interesting, because you know, he's a guy he's been most recently known for his work in TNA, hasn't he? And we saw him there, and I was like, okay, I was kind of surprised that he was there. I mean, I hadn't read up too much about the tournament beforehand. I mean, I knew it was coming and everything, but I hadn't really like gone through a list of participants, and I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, so, and we've seen him on TNA, we've seen him in the boot camp that they had over there, and just how much potential he had back then when he won that, and that's what TNA saw in him, that's what they were, like, banking on, but they haven't really used him in the right ways. But this tournament just showed TNA what they've been missing out on, you know? This guy could have been, like, their top kind of cruiserweight guy. They just let that slip by, and then he just come back, and he's shown that he was. It was probably what he was using the tournament for, maybe just to show TNA like what they'd missed out on, and like just show WWE like perhaps they should think about like having him permanently, because he's a really great talent, and I was glad he got in there, because you know it's just goes to show that like even if you do go to TNA and all that, it isn't usually the end, because there was a time, wasn't there, when you went to TNA, WWE sort of steered clear, but I'm glad now times have changed, and now we're getting all this like mixture of wrestling where it doesn't matter where you go to, as long as you make a name for yourself, it's good.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm with you 100%. I just hope that overall, with those guys at WWE, you know, keep every one of them in mind now for future. 100%. But yeah, I think TNA certainly would have been watching that and thinking, oh, if only we'd sorted something there. There could have been something. Obviously, Wolfgang, an interesting wrestler all round. I mean, you know, you think about where he came from. You know, they gave the stories about, you know, he'd been working in a bar, but you know, he was very much over. But by the time it got to it was a very interesting semi-final match, because they put both faces together, Matt. And I was thinking, are they going to test? Are they going to do this on a spur of the moment and tell the ref who goes over by just who's going to go over with that crowd? Were they really testing how popular Tyler Bate could actually be? Or would they have gone with Wolfgang? You know, it's one of those things we'll never know. But I have known WWE to do that in times gone by. But it was absolutely clear, Matt, by the time he got to the semi-finals, Tyler Bate was the darling of the ballroom. You know, he was the guy that everybody, was going to cheer for. And it's a weird thing, Matt, because you think in that sort of environment, that's where your baby faces are most vulnerable. Because a lot of the times, Matt, the crowd will turn on. You know, they do turn on it. What was it about Tyler Bate for you, Matt? Other than he's great wrestling, there's no doubt we have to say Tyler Bate is an amazing performer. Like 19 years old, this guy already has the psychology of a wrestler that's been wrestling for a good 10, 15 years. I mean, he is more advanced than a lot of the new guys that I'm watching on WWE currently. I mean, he really is. But all of these guys could wrestle amazingly, Matt. But what stood out as his character, why fans would actually want to cheer this guy? Was it just like the sort of waving and the sort of arrogant kind of swagger to himself, the handshake, pull away type thing? Sort of to me, Matt, it was like an old-fashioned kind of style, British wrestling, the moustache and all the rest of it. It's kind of an interesting, quirky thing. But what was it for you, Matt, that stood out why fans would actually want to get behind him? Because how many times do we see a guy go out, tries to get the fans, he's a typical babyface, and then it just never pans out?
I think it must have been a difficult balance for the guy because, firstly, he was wrestling a very distinctively British style, but then at the same time, he was coming out with a very sort of stereotypical British look. But it was finding the balance between the two that didn't put the UK fans off, going, "Oh, here we go. Is this what the Americans think the British look like?" And actually representing what we actually like about British wrestling.
Right.
So there was a good balance between all of that, and then secondly, we knew that he can actually wrestle for 19. He definitely, like you said, he definitely has experience beyond these years, and also that story about him being quite younger at 19 did make a lot of people feel like, wouldn't it be great if WWE took a chance on this guy? He's got a lot of potential still to go on, and they can really mould him into the kind of champion that they want, and what limitations could be on his career in that kind of circumstance. I mean, when we look back at when WWE chooses talent at a young age, names just spring to mind like Randy Orton. Wouldn't that be great? If they had ambition for someone as young and a British wrestler like him that could go on to do great things like that. Yeah,
absolutely. And of course, in the other semi-main event was, of course, Mark Andrews, who we mentioned earlier, with Pete Dunne, and really, I enjoyed that match a hell of a lot. I thought it was a great match for me, Matt. I don't know what you thought about that, but I really enjoyed what they were doing. And great psychology, really smooth. Everything they were doing kind of made sense for a change. They weren't just doing things for the sake of doing things. I've got to say, this whole night for me, I enjoyed, as a fan, Matt, I felt like a fan again. I wasn't watching it as someone who comes on the podcast and has to analyse it and all the rest of it. I actually was watching this, enjoying it, really enjoying it. I was taken away from looking at it as an analyst or a critic. I was drawn in, sucked in, if you will, as a fan again, which doesn't happen often, I'll say that much. But it really did this for me, Matt. I don't know what it was. I don't know if it was the idea that I was watching it live. For a change, it was a more reasonable hour, that it was on home soil. I don't know what it was, but something pulled me in. And certainly I was not watching it as I watch, typical WWE shows, or even NXT for that matter. I was watching this purely as a fan. I was really enjoying this whole night, and the whole thing. What was your sort of take from just the feel of the night, Matt? And did you enjoy it as a show all round? The presentation of it. Did you feel a little bit sucked in as well, or was that just me?
No. Definitely felt drawn into the show. It definitely had that feel that everybody involved in it was really positive about it, and even Michael Cole, I did wonder why he was the commentator that they brought down there, but then it just looked like he was having a blast down there. He was really enjoying it. He was making his picks about people he liked, and actually it was good to hear his opinions because I just associate him too much with American wrestling, and too much with the commercial side of it. That it's easy to forget that Michael Cole is a big wrestling fan himself. Of course he is. That's why he does that job. So it's nice to see that even people like that are enthusiastic about it. It just looked like when you look at a normal WWE show or you look at NXT and everything, they can get to segments when you think, oh, the adverts. There was no adverts. That was great. And there was nothing that you felt like you should fast forward. Everything was must-see TV. Even if you were just getting opinions about the wrestlers, getting a bit of background, there wasn't anything that should have been missed.
That's a good point as well. Not only was there no commercials, but there was no adverts like Royal Rumble or Raw or Mick Foley, Holy Foley. There was none of that. They stuck to the tournament, which makes a hell of a lot of difference, because when you're trying to separate things, and really and truly they need to do that more often on Raw and SmackDown to keep them separate, but they don't do that. But if they started to do that, it would make it seem really different, but of course they never do. But that went a long way for me. Matt, just as before we go to the main event, we had a couple